Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another Excel tutorial, just a simple one on pivot tables. I created a short earlier on how to create a pivot table, but obviously because it's only a minute and it's supposed to be very short, wanted to keep the audience engaged. So I'm assuming you're here because you want to properly learn how to use a pivot table, or you're here because of the short and you want to learn a bit more. So yeah, let's just get started. So today we're just using some data. Again, I'll leave the link in the description to the data and the website that I got it from. This isn't legit data from what I know, but it's simply just looking around. It's on like insurance, and I think it's on like children and like family, and like whether the family smokes or not and stuff like that, or just like this individual, if they smoke or not, and how many children they have, right? So yeah, obviously if you're working with data, you're trying to find a correlation, a relationship of some sort, and the pivot table is a very useful, I wouldn't say powerful, but it's just a very useful tool just to overview or like underline kind of like anomalies and stuff like that within large data sets. So like here, as you can see, we've got quite the amount of responses. We've got exactly 1,137 responses here. So yeah, you wouldn't want to go through, like go here, click the entire column, Control H, find what, like an anomaly, like 2 or something, right? You wouldn't want to do that. You would want something quite like obvious and stuff like that. So yeah. So what I would do, if let's say I just wanted, I don't know, finding the age, gender, and if they smoke and their region. Let's say I wanted just these, right? What I would do is copy them. So I just did Command C or Control C if you're Windows. Create new sheet. I'll just name this tutorial again, and then just press enter. Whoops. So copy it, paste it, just press enter. Oh, if I can just do that. There we go. Okay. So that's quite nice. If you want to like just filter through things and not have everything in your way, so it's like needed to work with. Otherwise, you can just highlight everything, click insert, go to the top left, click pivot table, the select a table or region. This can be just this, it could just be age, could just be gender, could be BMI, whatever, but we want the whole thing, so we highlight everything. And then you can create the pivot table with a new worksheet. I usually put in the existing worksheet just because it makes sense next to the data, So you just click existing worksheet, table/range, click on a cell, and then click OK. And then it'll be blank. This is normal because, as you can see here, you have your field names, which is basically all the categories that you have over here. So let's do that for our table on the other sheet because that's what we're going to try and work with. Just delete this. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So let's say we're just working with these 4, kind of subcategories or categories. We'll do the same thing. So we'll click insert, then we'll click pivot table. Again, same thing. Usually if you highlight it before you click pivot table, Excel will automatically highlight the ones you'd already highlighted. So we've done that. Click table range, put on cell F2, bang, same thing, right? So let's say, I don't know, we're trying to find how many people smoke in each region, right? Let's just say that. So we can either put, I don't know, region on the rows or columns. It doesn't really matter on where you put them. It's really up to you, to be honest, because it's for you or like the person looking at this pivot table to understand the relationship between these variables and whether there are any relationships between these variables. So it doesn't matter if it's rows or columns or in the values. The only difference between columns and rows and values is that values are the numbers which are in between the columns and rows, and then the columns and rows are just basically like your X and Y. If you don't really understand that, I'll explain like on the pivot table and hopefully it'll make more sense. So let's put region on, let's put it on rows, right? So we have northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, right? And then blank. Blank's normal just because it's in case of, let's say, there wasn't something here Excel wouldn't know where to filter it, so it has a blank spot. So if you don't have any blanks and there's nothing shown on the blanks, then don't be surprised, 'cause it's pretty normal. So let's say, let's have the age. No, let's have, yeah, no, we'll have age on columns. So if we do age on columns, it will look something like this. So this, from like, you know, a logical perspective, doesn't look very clear. So we'll be like, okay, no, never mind. Let's just get rid of that. And instead, let's put gender. So this looks so much nicer. So you got your male and female. So what you have here is obviously your regions, and then your male and female, so your genders. And you can label them here. So your row, you can just put here gender or sex. And then column, you can put what region they live in, right? Let me just do this real quick. It's annoying me a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then you have smoker. You can put this in values, and then you get these values. So right now we haven't actually done anything to the count of smoker, because right now, obviously, as we saw before, we can look again. The total here is 1,137. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, the number of people we have surveyed in this data is 1,137. So right now, this pivot table is pretty useless. Let me just, So I fixed the shenanigans over there, made the cells look a bit nicer in width. It was just annoying me. But anyways, right now, as I said, the pivot table is pretty useless because it's just showing us what's on here in a consolidated way. Like, that's a good thing. However, we want to be more specific in what we actually want from this table. So let's say we want the number of people that smoke from each region, right? What you're going to want to do is, because there's only a count right now, by the way, if you want to change anything here, you can change it by clicking the I. You can make it the sum, the count, the average, the maximum, the minimum, product, count number, standard deviations, standard development variable. I don't actually know what that means. And varp. Okay, so typically you wouldn't need to mess around with the column and rows, but in values you can make it either count or sum or average or max or minimum or standard deviation. Those are the ones I typically use, but other than that, you don't really need to mess about with them unless it comes up with like sum instead of count or count instead of sum. You know what I mean? Okay, so we've got that out of the way. In order to find like the people that actually smoke and the people that don't smoke, what we can do is add something called a filter. So what a filter does is, if we just put this smoker kind of category, I'm basically holding left click and then letting go on filters. It gives us this like little pop-up over here. I'll just move this down a little bit. Okay, so we have this like little pop-up over here. Right now it says all. But what we're going to want to do is, let's say we want to find the number of people who do smoke. We will click on the arrow. It'll come up with this kind of user interface, and there's an option saying select all, or yes or no, or blank, right? So these options come from your smoker column from your data. So my data has yes and no, and then obviously Excel automatically generated blank because, you know, there might be a blank, an anomaly or something like that. So that's why it's a blank. So if we want to find the number of people who do smoke, let's just uncheck no. And then that will give us the number of people who do smoke because yes is highlighted, right? And now we've seen that the data has now changed on the pivot table. So we can now see the grand total of people who smoke are 278, right? And we can then split it off into male and female because we've done that by splitting the gender or sex into columns and then splitting the region on the rows. And we can verify that this is correct by simply clicking on the C cell to collect all of the C column variables if you must. Then we can do Control H, and then we can do find yes. And we should get plenty, right? We have like hundreds of them, right? And as you can see, it says 278 cells found of people saying yes, and that's correlating to what our table says. So therefore we can state that, you know, the pivot table is correct and there aren't any errors and stuff like that, right? So that's pretty cool. you're now wondering, what about here? What about here? Can I get rid of, like, you know, I don't know why you would want to, but, you know, someone might be asking, how do I just get rid of them? Some of, like, the regions, or, like, I want to get rid of male, so the pivot table only shows female. What you can do is, Excel's very smart at doing this. It's just the same thing as the filter thing over here, but instead they have their own designated arrows. What you do is just, like, let's say for region, let's say we don't want, ooh. Let's say, sorry, we don't, oh, I've put it the wrong way, whoopsie. Let's put region there, and then sex there. There we go. Okay, that makes more sense. I got very confused there. But anyways, so we've got region here, and it's got northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, blank. So let's say we don't want to see northeast and southwest. You just untick them, and then they'll disappear. No need to worry, they're still there. They're just hidden in Excel currently. And let's say we want to get rid of, well, male, right, and just show female. Then there you go. All the values will automatically change once you've put on the filters. And then once you're done with the filters and you don't want them again, you want to show everything, just click select all. Then everything will be highlighted again, and everything will go back to normal. So as you can see, when I get rid of the smoke filter, it will show 1137 over here, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. But yeah, that's basically the general gist of using pivot table. There's other things that we can do as well. Let's say we want to just have yes smoker, and then let's go back onto the pivot table field. Oh yeah, also another thing, I panicked when I didn't realize how to do this when I first used Excel. If you can't get this thing on the right side to, like, change your pivot table stuff, like your fields, just simply click on the pivot table. Don't freak out, just, like, double click, and if that doesn't work, just click on the pivot table, and then if you see on the top here, if I click away, it disappears, but if I click on it, it's pivot table analyze. So just click on that and then click on field list, and then it'll come back up. So don't panic, it's not disappeared or anything, it's just hidden itself. But yeah, I got very scared when it disappeared at first. I was like, oh, now I'm gonna have to do this all over again. But anyways, let's say we want to add something like let's actually switch around. Yeah, let's switch around gender and region. Let's just do that real quick, right? So instead, now we've got male and female on the rows, so we need to change this. And then we've got regions on the columns, right? We can just check that by clicking on the filters just to make sure. But yeah, okay, let's get rid of the smoker thing for now, just because we're needing to work with a thing just to check, right? So let's bring in age. Let's bring in age, and let's be appropriate about this. I'll put it on region first, and I'll show you why it wouldn't make sense, right? Yeah, that's why. So let's put age on rows, just because it logically makes sense. It's a pretty big, however, compared to this, yeah, let's just say it's a bit better, right? So it'll look a bit scary at first. You may be thinking, what the actual hell is this? But if you break it down one by one, it will make sense, okay? So I'll go through it right now with you guys. So we have our grand total of 557 for females and 580. This should add up to 1,137, as you can see right down here. So I'll start from the bottom and go up. So blank, obviously, because we don't have any blanks, blank is going to be blank because everything's filled up. And then the next section is over here. So you have your entire section for male. So if you read up from here, you have your gender, and remembering that we put age with it, with the row columns, no, the rows, sorry. You can suggest, or it will suggest, that this is the row. So what you can do here is to show your viewer or yourself, just for reference, is put sex, and then you can put dash age, right? And then obviously that logically makes sense. You can't have sex and then age. So obviously the sex will be on the top and then age will follow, right? Just so then everyone is on the same page. So basically what these are the age of the people that were surveyed. And then over here, it's the region of where they're from. And currently this basically indicates how many people took the survey because we have no filters on. Hence why it's on 1,137. However, like what we were trying to do earlier, our objective is to see how many people smoked. Let's turn it off. So it should be the same for the number of people who smoked, which was 278 if you didn't remember. And now as we can see some blanks. We're like, why are there so many blanks? Why? This looks kind of like digital code or like hacker code, but in a white background. But anyways, these basically show the number of people that said yes to smoking and their age and also what region they're from, right? So we can see that 2 males from the northeast region smoke, 1 18 male from the northwest region smoke, 3 18-year-old males from the southeast smoke, and etc. So basically what I'm looking at is the number that's in the middle. So 2 here, 2 18-year-old males smoke or said yes they do smoke from the northeast region, right? So again, we can do the same thing as before. We can get rid of regions. So let's say we just want northeast and southeast. Let's just get rid of northwest and southwest. There we go. That again shortens or cuts down the table to just show these. So it's still the same. So 2 people from northeast who are 18 said yes to smoking. And that's that. So you're probably wondering now, how do you get rid of all the ages? Let's say you want between 18 to 25, right? So what you can do is go down or go up, I meant, to here, right? Click the arrow thing and it says select field sex right now because we're a male and female. That's how we've categorized it right now. So we should do, whoops, that should be sex. Okay, so it should be select field sex right now, right? But we want age. We want to find the number of people who smoke between 18 and 25. So what we want to do is click here and then click on age. And then we get every single age of person that was surveyed. And you can basically just untick everyone who isn't between the age range of 18 to 25. Now that would be a big pain to just go through every single one, right? But I got a neat trick here. So you just go and select all. It gets rid of everything. But then what you can do is just click on all the ones, especially for smaller categories. There you go. And then you can just highlight everything that you want to exist in your table. And that's complete. So there you go. We can basically compress a massive table of irrelevant data into something which is much more visual, nicer to look at, like more visually aesthetic if you must, and something that's quite relevant to what we want. So we're currently looking at 18 to 25-year-old male and females who live in the northeast and southeast regions, and we are seeing how many people smoke. And we can see that in total, or in summation, there are 42 people who currently smoke within the northeast and southeast. And we can specifically say that, you know, one person who's 23 years old lives in the northeast and stated that he smoked. We can say that people between 21 and 22 in the northeast region don't smoke. So things like that, it is quite useful, right, for the pivot table, because you can instantly see how many people who are 18 and a female who live in the northeast who smoke and who don't smoke. So again, if we don't want the people who smoke, we just click the no, and there you go. These are the people who don't smoke in those regions. So hopefully that made sense. My explanation was a little bit iffy, but hopefully it was at least understandable. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please share it, leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.